by the Indiana Fever. Congratulations, you four. You guys have successfully broken Caitlin Clark. Great job. You guys have tried your damnedest to turn her into a role.
What we're watching right now feels like the gradual breakdown of a once-in-a-generation superstar's potential. The leadership behind the Indiana Fever, head coach Stephanie White, general manager Kelly Krauskopf, and team president Amber Cox, has made a controversial decision that continues to spark debate across the basketball world. Rather than building the offense around one of the most dynamic and exciting point guards the game has ever seen, critics argue that the organization is trying to fit her into a structured, traditional system that limits the very qualities that made her a phenomenon in the first place. But that's only the beginning of the story. The real question isn't what's happening on the court right now, it's what these decisions could mean moving forward. And what comes next may have a far greater impact than anyone expected.
Oh yeah, these networks get exactly what they asked for. They get exactly what they get every penny of what they asked for. But when she doesn't go rogue, when she plays within the system, when she gets subbed out 3 minutes into the game, and then plays for a few minutes, then subbed out again, and then plays for a few minutes, then subbed.
Television networks and broadcast partners invested heavily because fans want to see a superstar perform at her highest level, not sit on the bench just minutes after tip-off. Audiences tune in for the deep-range shooting, the jaw-dropping playmaking, and the electrifying moments that happen when she takes command of the game. When she's allowed to play with confidence and freedom, the numbers speak for themselves, drawing massive attention and record-setting viewership. But according to many critics, the current coaching approach is moving in the opposite direction. Rather than embracing the creativity and instincts that made her a basketball sensation, the system emphasizes strict control and structure. The result, they argue, is a player who often appears frustrated, restricted, and unable to fully showcase the unique talents that turned her into one of the sport's biggest attractions.
Once you get rid of those four and you get rid of your stooge of an agent, Aaron Kane, you'll be free. And I know we don't want her to go the LeBron route, but at this point, you need to get rid of Aaron Kane and you need to call Rich Paul immediately.
This is where the conversation shifts beyond basketball and into the business side of the sport. Many observers have questioned the lack of a strong public response from her current representation, led by Aaron Kane, as criticism and controversy continue to surround the organization. Compare that to the way some of the industry's most influential agencies operate. Powerhouse firms are often quick to defend their clients, shape public narratives, and push back against negative coverage when they believe a player's reputation is being unfairly challenged. As it stands, critics argue that there has been little visible resistance to either the external criticism directed at her or the internal decisions that some believe are limiting her impact. And that's what makes the next part of this story so important. Because the biggest issue may not be the headlines everyone is talking about, it may be the one detail that has gone largely unnoticed.
Y'all need to listen to this real quick.
Let up at all. They're going to stay full. They're going to be disruptive. I think for us, I think we got to get the ball inside to our post players. I think that's one way or one key to the game that will help us win is to get AB and Mo and.
Let's take a closer look at the basketball strategy itself. Critics argue that the emphasis on forcing the offense through the interior doesn't fully align with the strengths of the current roster. While players such as Monique Billings and Aaliyah Boston bring valuable skills to the lineup, questions remain about whether a post-centered approach maximizes the team's overall offensive potential. More importantly, many analysts believe this philosophy reduces the impact of the team's most dynamic playmaker. When a guard consistently draws defensive attention several feet beyond the three-point line, that gravity creates opportunities all over the floor. Defenders are forced to extend their coverage, opening driving lanes, creating mismatches, and generating cleaner looks for teammates. From that perspective, the more natural approach would be to lean heavily on high pick-and-roll actions, allowing the defense's focus on the ball handler to create advantages elsewhere. The argument is simple. When you have a player capable of attracting multiple defenders 30 feet from the basket, the offense should be built around leveraging that pressure rather than minimizing it.
Stephanie White on why Aaliyah Boston and Caitlin Clark subbed out at the 6:30-minute mark, after which Portland went on a 13-2 run. Well, AB is still on a minutes restriction, so that's why she's coming out, and that's typically around the same time that we've taken Clark out before. None of that is good at all. None of that is good at all. But again, wait, why are you specifying AB's on a minute restriction, but you're not specifying Caitlin Clark's on a minute restriction? Explain, please. We did it in Golden State because, quite honestly, we didn't want Raven in that environment without another ball handler on the floor, but that's been our typical...
The explanation behind these rotation decisions simply doesn't withstand serious statistical or logical examination. Pointing to Aaliyah Boston's minutes restriction may account for her substitution, but it does nothing to explain why the team's primary ball handler is consistently pulled at the exact same 6:30 mark. The reasoning just doesn't add up. Even more revealing is the reference to the Golden State Road environment. To many observers, that mindset exposes a deeper flaw in the organization's developmental approach. Championship-caliber players aren't built by being protected from difficult situations, they're forged by navigating them. If a franchise cornerstone is constantly shielded from hostile crowds, pressure-packed moments, and adversity on the road, how can she develop the resilience required to lead a title contender? And that's where this discussion stops being just about rotations, substitutions, or game plans. Because what comes next makes this situation feel far more personal than basketball strategy alone.
But I'm going to use it anyway. Folks, you mow your lawn. What do you do before you mow your lawn? You start your engine. And what do? You let that engine warm up because it needs to warm up. Aaliyah Boston, Caitlin Clark, they're your engines. Got to start that engine, let them warm up. 3.5 minutes isn't enough to let them warm up. They finally get into a rhythm. You get an 8-4 lead, 8-2 lead, and you take them out. Well, now they got to start their engine again. But now we're not starting our engine to begin the game. Now we're starting our engine in the rhythm of a game of momentum we've already lost. This is coaching malpractice.
What makes this entire situation so remarkable is the growing perception that a franchise may be struggling to fully adapt to the arrival of a truly transformational talent. The Indiana Fever were handed a player capable of changing not only the trajectory of a team, but also the visibility and commercial appeal of women's basketball as a whole. Yet critics argue that, instead of immediately building around those unique strengths, the organization has continued to rely on a more traditional developmental framework. At the heart of the debate is a fundamental difference in perspective. The front office and coaching staff appear focused on a long-term process built around structure, hierarchy, and system execution. Meanwhile, many fans and analysts believe that players with rare, game-changing abilities require a completely different approach. History has repeatedly shown that transcendent talents often force organizations to rethink everything. When a player can alter defensive schemes the moment she crosses half-court, the question becomes whether the system should shape the player, or whether the player should reshape the system. That is why the conversation has grown far beyond wins and losses. Many observers point to the constant rotation changes, shifting responsibilities, and recurring debates about offensive roles as factors that can affect confidence and rhythm. When a player is repeatedly asked to adjust while carrying enormous expectations, every substitution, every assignment, and every public comment becomes magnified. The concern isn't simply about strategy. It's about development, trust, and maximizing a rare opportunity. The league itself finds itself at a pivotal moment. Television audiences are growing, expansion plans are generating excitement, and the sport continues to attract unprecedented attention. Much of that momentum has been fueled by an exciting, fast-paced style of basketball that captures the imagination of casual and dedicated fans alike. As a result, every decision surrounding one of the league's biggest stars is now being viewed through a much larger lens. Fans are no longer judging these choices solely on a game-by-game basis. They're evaluating what they mean for the future of the franchise and, in some cases, the future growth of the league itself. The pressure will only increase as marquee matchups continue to attract national attention. Every coaching decision, substitution pattern, and offensive adjustment will be scrutinized more intensely than ever before. That is why many believe the organization has reached a defining crossroads. One path is to remain committed to the current structure and trust that patience will eventually produce results. The other is to embrace a more aggressive vision, one that fully unleashes the strengths of a player many consider a generational talent. Either way, the stakes could not be higher. Because this is no longer just a discussion about basketball strategy. It's about whether a franchise can successfully recognize and maximize a historic opportunity before it slips away. So what do you think? Is the current approach the right long-term plan, or should the organization completely redesign its system around its biggest star? Let me know where you stand in the comments.